Were you the star of my birth vlog? Yeah, I think you were. Everybody was commenting on how sweet you were. Okay, you gotta lie down so I can start the video. What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. If you are new, hey, I'm Carissa and this is TMI Tuesday, a series where you ask the questions and I answer them. And in the 10 years of doing these videos, I have not had questions like these ones. Probably because most of them were about my postpartum experience and they were very nosy, to say the least. A lot of you had a lot of questions about postpartum, about things like sex, things like cannabis and breastfeeding, things like what was it like having my family in the room when I delivered our daughter, things that are just commonly not spoken about. So today we're gonna bring them all to the surface. Let's jump into the video. Okay, wait, before I get into this, I do want to just quickly be on the same page, and I just want to say it once, I'm gonna say it once. I don't need you to agree with my opinions. We can have totally different opinions on every topic that I present, and that's totally okay. But what is not okay is if you are pushing your opinions on me and expecting me to change the way that I live based on your opinions, because that's not gonna fly. I just wanted to say that because I am a new parent, and I know that there is a lot of opinions when it comes to different parenting styles and different things that you and your family do. So I just want to put it out there once, and hopefully once only, that you do you and I'm going to do me. All right, well, let's jump into these questions. The first question that I am going to answer was one that a lot of you actually had asked. It was to do with sex after baby. Fair enough. I do want to just point out that 6 weeks is kind of an arbitrary number. It is not something that everyone is going to feel ready at 6 weeks to jump right back into your sex life, or exercise for that matter. Like, they kind of give you that 6 week mark and they're like, there you go. And that's just not realistic. It's okay to wait and feel things out and figure out your new body postpartum and figure out where your head's at, because it's not easy. You're leaking from everywhere, you're tired, you're sore, and sex, at least for me, was definitely on the back burner. Keeping my baby and myself alive was kind of at the forefront. So really listen to yourself and find other ways to intimately connect with your partner. For us, that was exploring outer course and using toys or just doing things that didn't involve putting something up into the hole that I just birthed out of. So it made it a much more relaxed and enjoyable experience to kind of just explore, rather than feel like I had to just like get right back on the horse, you know? It took us about 3 months to actually get back into the swing of our regular kind of sexual routine. Such a weird way to put it. My fridge is making a bunch of noises, so if you hear things in the background, I think it's my ice machine. That sounded so bad. There were so many of you that wanted to know if I actually used my vibrator during labor. If you missed the video, I planned on using a vibrator during labor to increase blood flow and to help with a different sensation, and yeah, I did, and it worked. It's not something that's gonna like completely take your pain away, and it's not like I'm sitting there trying to orgasm in the middle of labor, but it definitely helped engorge the area. It definitely helped give me a different sensation when I was trying to just really come back to my body and pay attention to how I was feeling. And you can actually see it in a couple of the scenes, not me using it, because like that wouldn't really be appropriate on YouTube, but you can see my vibrator on the scene where I'm in the bathtub. You can see it in the background. And I guess that also is something to say, like there was definitely times in my labor where like it was just Glenn and I. Like yes, I had a lot of people in the house. I had 2 midwives, my doula, and my parents, but it wasn't like everybody was in the room at once all the time. Like we really had our own private moments and private time while everybody else was, you know, doing shit around the house. So I didn't feel as though it was embarrassing or like I was being encroached upon, because I just had a lot of space, which was perfect. That's actually another question that a lot of you asked, which is so weird to tie this with I used a vibrator during labor, but my parents. I didn't really at all think that that was weird until some of you commented like, oh my god, your dad was in the room when you had your daughter, so cringe. And I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm supposed to feel embarrassed or shamed over this? Oh no. He was watching the dogs and he was helping prepare tea and coffee for everybody. And if he wasn't there doing that and taking care of everybody else, then I wouldn't have had my support crew with me, like my mom and my doula, and have them focus 100% on me. So it was kind of just a chain of people supporting other people in order to support me. And I wouldn't have changed any of that. Like, I'm not really sure why I'm supposed to feel shame over family members being a part of something intimate like that. I think mainly because other people don't have a relationship with their family like that, and they feel as though like they would feel weird about it, but I didn't feel weird about it at all. I'm just not the kind of person to feel shame about natural things. Yeah, I didn't find that weird at all to have my family around. I just felt so supported and so loved. And I guess end of the day, like, you know, like that was one of the most beautiful moments of my entire life. Like I get choked up thinking about it. And I refuse to feel shame based off of what somebody else decides to perceive the experience as. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. Somebody wants to know what the experience was like trying to conceive with a lower sex drive. That's a great question. That is something that we've talked about quite a few times on this channel. I have struggled with a lower libido over the years, and yeah, it was a little bit hard at times while trying to conceive because it was a lot more sex than I was used to, you know? They always make it like in high school, like, oh, you'll have sex once and you'll get pregnant. Girl, I found that at points it went from being like sex in a romantic way to sex in like a let's get her done, like take your pants off, we're making a baby, you know? So there was a lot more getting down to business rather than making it into like this sensual event, if you will. Somebody's asked, what's been the most surprising thing about motherhood? I'm gonna give you two. The first is that I didn't really realize that you just leak from everywhere. Like, holy shit, the first 3 months, like your boobs are leaking, your vag is leaking, you're sweating all the time, your hair is like not falling out, but about to. You're just like losing cells everywhere. I didn't really realize how damp I was gonna be all the time. I'm constantly sweaty, I'm constantly leaking, and I'm constantly sticky. Like, oh, not my favorite. So that was one thing that surprised me. I don't really know why that surprised me. I think that like, I just had it in my head that like, I don't know, like when you breastfeed, like it only comes out one side. So that was a bit of a wake-up call to realize I was constantly damp for several months. The second thing that kind of surprised me about motherhood was more to do with myself. I really was preparing to have baby blues and feel as though I was going to be anxious, and I really thought that I was gonna just feel such anxiety, like, is my baby breathing? Am I doing this right? Like, what does my baby need? I have struggled with anxiety and depression in the past, and so that was something that I really thought that I would be dealing with the hormonal changes, but I just didn't have that as an experience. My whole body felt like I had so many happy hormones from just feeling like, oh my God, I did this. I'm alive, my baby's alive. I just pushed out my baby in my house and we're okay. Holy shit. As soon as I had Goldie, it was just like something clicked into place and I just felt so freaking sure of myself, and I'm so grateful because I know that's not everybody's experience, and I thought I was gonna feel like a freaking fish out of water, and it just wasn't like that at all. Somebody's asking, will I do unmedicated births for all future children? I would hope to, but honestly, like if things didn't go the way that they did, I mean, you gotta go with the flow, right? Like, had there been meconium in my waters, that would have completely changed the game, and we would have had to have done a hospital transfer, and who knows, you know, like what happens if your labor stalls out and you need to have some Pitocin, and then all of a sudden your contractions are really freaking intense. Like, I am never going to shut the book completely on taking medication because there's no shame in taking help when you need it. But for this experience and this baby, I felt like I was in control from start to finish. There was no point in my labor where I felt like I couldn't do it. There was no point where I felt scared about what was happening. It just felt like I was so in the zone. It was like, I know that my body knows what it's doing, and I know that if I just breathe through it and really, really concentrate on myself and getting through this, that it's gonna be fine, and it was. And not every experience will be like that. There are some things that just happen that you are not in control of, and you have to be able to go with the flow. So I would plan for having unmedicated home births for subsequent children. but I don't know if that's going to be what it's going to be, and that's okay too, because whatever the experience is, it's going to be, and I'm going to make the most of it. Somebody's asking, how have things changed for you after having a baby? I don't know, I just feel as though I really feel like it's just me, but with a baby. Nothing's really changed that drastically that it feels like I'm not myself. Okay, my battery died, and then I had to feed my daughter. So that is, it's a good thing to add on to that. My life has changed because I live it in 3-hour-ish increments. Breastfeeding is very time intensive, and I don't think you really realize until like you're doing it. It's like I'm spending a lot of time a day doing this. So it's definitely been something to get used to, because you have a baby to feed, you need your boobs to be available for those feeds, and so that definitely is different. Feeling as though I am a milk bar, very different. On the topic of boobs, a lot of you actually had asked like what the deal was with explant and breastfeeding and like that whole experience. That was something that I was actually really quite nervous about, because if you didn't know this, I had implants for like almost 5 years, had them removed, and like there's a lot that's gone on in my chest region, and I was kind of concerned that I wouldn't be able to breastfeed. I think that it's something that most people don't have nearly enough support with. It's not as easy as just putting your baby on your nipple and like letting them fly at it. Like, for example, we had Goldie assessed by our chiropractor 2 days after she was born, and we determined that she just wasn't really that effective with her tongue when she was sucking, so she was really overcompensating with her jaw. And so that changes breastfeeding immensely if the baby is chomping on the boob rather than sucking on the boob. And so we ended up doing something called suck training, and basically just like taught her tongue how to work more effectively. And so in turn, that really helped with breastfeeding and whether or not it was comfortable for me. And it took a while for it to feel like, okay, this is second nature. It's not something that's just like, it happens and you're good to go. Like, there is a journey. So you definitely do need the resources to prepare for that. And I think that that's something that people don't really prepare for when they are pregnant. They just, how would you know until you're in it? How would you know? Somebody wanted to know my boob that I had a piercing on, how that went compared to my other boob. So I had my left nipple pierced for like several years. It closed up, and then during pregnancy, the inner side of my piercing opened, but the outer side didn't. Totally get milk, like full-blown spraying out. It's pretty funny. Like probably the first, I don't know, at least until January, so like 3-4 months, I was so engorged all the time that like I would literally spray like a freaking hydrant. Like it was like shower head spraying. It was so weird. And I mean, it's not a thing like that for everybody. Like my best friend who's also breastfeeding and her child is 2 weeks younger than Goldie hasn't ever had that experience. Like, I don't know, everybody is so different. So breastfeeding is a wild experience. I am so grateful that I've been able to experience it and have very minimal issues with it. I didn't experience any clogged ducts, or I've experienced nipple pain here and there with just ineffective sucking, like I was saying before, and that was totally mitigated by doing certain exercises or readjusting where she was on my boob, or I don't know, just working with your baby. Like at the end of the day, you both are new at doing this, right? And you have to keep that at the front of your mind, that your baby has no idea what they're doing. They have like an instinct to do it, but like it doesn't mean that they're effective at doing it and good at doing it. And the same for you. You have boobs, but like you might not really know how to feed a baby even though you have boobs. So it really is a dance. It's much more of a collaborative effort than I could have ever really understood before this experience. And yeah, I mean, I think that that's kind of all I have to say about breastfeeding for now. I would love to know if you're interested on like a specific video just to do with that, because I feel like there's so many things that one could talk about, the things that helped me or the things that we worked on, or like I could dive deeper into like the suck training that we did. Let me know. Somebody asked, is it different down there? Yes, it totally is different down there, and I don't think it'll ever be the same, and not in a bad way. So I pushed for like 2.5 hours-ish. I wasn't nearly as effective with my pushing as I thought I would be. I did like full-blown courses on like learning how to do it, and I tried for probably the first hour of pushing to like really use my transverse abdominals and just breathe the baby out, and it just was not giving me nearly the amount of pressure that I needed in order to actually get her head out of me. She was really just rammed right in there, and I felt like I had to push with all my frickin' might. It was not just gonna just breathe the baby out. I felt the urge to push very, very much, and it just felt like I had to push so frickin' hard to get her out. Luckily, didn't really experience any like major prolapse, which is wild considering how I pushed. I saw a pelvic floor specialist after birth, and I did a group like Skype 6-week course with that pelvic floor specialist. I will link her down below. She's phenomenal. If you are in Canada or in the Kelowna area, obviously it's great to find somebody local who can actually assess you. But the postpartum group was wonderful. I learned so much, and I felt like it was such a great tool in my postpartum healing to really hone in on the nether regions, because it is different down there. First of all, aesthetically, let's talk. So I had really minor first-degree tear between my like vulva and perineum, a very minor tear there. But what I didn't realize is you can tear in other places, and I had a superficial tear on my inner labia. The inner lips, they're no longer like one piece for me. So like looking down there for the first time, I was like, holy shit, I didn't even really know that that could happen. But yeah, like full blown, if like my clit is here and my lips are here, like it basically split right there. So if you didn't know that, now you do. That's a thing. I think that my midwife tried to stitch it. I honestly think that like either with my wiping or just with my movement after, I must have torn the stitch out, because like obviously it did not heal back together, and now I have split lips. So, well, that's a thing. On the inside, things feel a little bit different. I feel like things got a little bit rearranged. I mean, obviously we'll have some different level of things just being not in the same place as they were before. Glenn and I were talking about this. I've really found in my own anatomy that my G-spot is way closer to like the exit of my vagina now. Like you don't have to like reach up and in to feel that little brainy thing. God, we're really TMI today, but whatever, you're already here. It's way closer to like the edge of my vagina, and it's so weird because that's not a bad thing. Like it's more stimulation now and it feels kind of nice. So it's different, but it doesn't mean the different is bad. So that was kind of my experience with things shifting and rearranging down there. Something that I also want to point out that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, and I mean for good reason, it's fucking weird, but when your tubes shift about down there, like think about it, like you have your bladder, you have your vagina, and you have your rectum. Prolapse is where one, like will either the roof will come into the ceiling or the ceiling will go into the roof. I kind of had like the tiniest bit of my rectum wasn't in the right spot, and so I found it really hard to poop for the first maybe month after having Goldie. Obviously, like your first poop after birth is rightly quite terrifying for most people, as I'm led to believe. It definitely was like, oh, I actually have to like make sure that I'm either taking stool softeners or like I'm thinking about my exit plan, you know? So I definitely had stool softeners for probably the first like week or so after birth. This is so fucking TMI, I'm sorry. Please just like skip ahead if you don't like talking about this stuff. I was talking to my pelvic floor person, and they were basically saying that it's really actually quite common for people who can't poop after birth to put your finger inside of your vagina and kind of just press down, like literally press down on the inside of your vagina wall, and it kind of helps guide your rectum back to the place where it's supposed to be, and it helps you poop. And it works, totally works. So gross and weird, and yeah, like people don't talk about this online, but I'm going to, because I think that it is something that probably should be said. You should just make sure that you're drinking enough water and having enough fiber, because it's hard to crap after having a baby. A lot of you were curious about Goldie's name, and like, did I have the name before I gave birth? Like, I have had a list of names forever. Glenn and I have been together for like, what, 11 years now? I've had a list of names for a very long time, and I loved how his name is Glenn Gustard. It's an alliteration. His initials are GG. I loved that, and I thought that that was such a cool thing to do for your kid. I don't know. I'm not like Kris Kardashian over here. It's like Kendall, Kris, Kylie, blah, blah. Like I don't need to like name all my children like a K name or a G name or whatever. But I just really felt like with our firstborn, I was really adamant on, I liked to have an alliteration name. So we had an alliteration name for both boy and girl, and then we had another secondary name that we liked for boy or girl. And so I'm not going to tell you because I still like them and I want to have more kids, so I'm not going to go over what names we almost used. And we waited until we met her to name her. It took us probably a month to decide on her middle name. Like I think there's like a spectrum of time that you have to like finally like enter their name into the system. And so like we waited the entire time to kind of get to know her and really feel out who she was and what she was like before we did her middle name. But the first name, within like the first like 20 minutes of birth, like basically the midwives were like, do you have a name? And like I looked up at Glenn and I'm like, he's like, yeah, we're gonna go with Goldie. We really, really liked it. And I think for both of us, like we wanted a name that was unique but not weird and not hard to spell and not hard to pronounce, just something that you're not going to forget. And I don't think that you're ever going to forget a Goldie Gustard. I had a lot of people very curious about cannabis, which, I mean, rightly so, totally fair. I have been extremely open with my cannabis use online for probably the entirety of my online experience. I did not consume during pregnancy, but immediately postpartum, I took a 1-to-1 tincture, like literally as soon as she came out. Been continuing using that since. I'm so grateful that it is something that is available to me in Canada, and it's something that I've obviously ran past our health team. Cannabis is such a stigmatized thing at the best of times, let alone being involved with parenthood. It's just very hard to have a neutral discussion because people have feelings about that, and that's totally fine. You're allowed to have your feelings about it. But on the flip side, if I was sitting here saying that I was on SSRIs, it would be like, oh cool, she's doing something for her mental health. It is something that I find immense benefit from, and I'm not going to change a frickin' thing. If this was the experience that I had postpartum, my daughter is thriving, and somebody wants to know what is in your memory box for Goldie if you have one. So I don't have a memory box, but I have been scrapbooking, and oh my God, it is a lot of effort to scrapbook. Like, go thank your mother if she made you a scrapbook. It's just a lot of work. So I've been doing that, just tons of writing and little entries. I really wanted to make sure that I had like some type of mementos from this time period because, as I've mentioned, I have aphantasia. And if you don't know what that is, I basically cannot visualize things in my head. Like there's blackness, there is zero imagery when I think about things. So taking photos is really important to me, and taking video is really important to me. And that is obviously why like my doula was a photographer and we filmed the birth, because things like that, like if I didn't have that captured, I would never have a visual of that ever again. And so that is deeply important to me, to have that visual memory. And so I really wanted to make sure that I had that in book form and like easily accessible, and something that like we can always return to and just look at. I really enjoy also using Chatbooks, that service. I've made a couple of them already and they are beautiful. They are so nice. So I've been doing that. And then I also have in my phone, in my notes, I basically have like a running list of just different stuff that's been going on. So I titled it like Goldie's first year, and like I literally will just put an entry in as soon as something happens, you know? So like last month when she rolled over for the first time, like I talked about that. Or like, I don't know, when I have a really hard day, I will share that and just share my perspective of like, today was hard and this is why, and this is what I did to get through it, just so that I can remember my own experience, but so that if she ever wanted to look back, she could as well. I probably will end up like printing or like transferring that list of things from my phone into like a hard copy somewhere else. But for right now, it's just so easy to have it in my phone, because like when I'm breastfeeding, I can basically just type out an entry and then I'm done and good to go. But anything that was like a physical thing, like her last newborn diaper, like I took a picture of it and then I put the picture in the book. So I don't physically have like individual things, I just compiled it all into one place. You guys are curious about what I did with my placenta. I ate it. I did. I had it encapsulated and I ate the pills you would take. I think it was like 2 a day. I made a damn fine placenta. You don't taste it, I'm kidding. It looked like little like shredded bits of fiber inside of like a little pill capsule, and I just had that with some food. I was debating having it in like a smoothie postpartum, but it was just not, no. It's so much easier to encapsulate. Happy I did it. Do I think that it helped postpartum? I do not know, but again, I have had such a smooth and wonderful postpartum experience that I feel like whenever I have a baby again, I'm doing the exact same thing to a T. This has just been a great experience for me, so I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. I guess we should talk about that too, like birthing the placenta and like how it got to be encapsulated. I wish that we actually got it on film, like me birthing my placenta, because it was really quite funny. So after birth, you're just on a high, like what the hell, like this was incredible, like what just happened? I'm separated from the baby, Glenn's like doing skin to skin, I was still in the pool, and they're like, do you want to try and have the placenta on the bed, or do you want to just do it in the pool? And so I got up and I was like, I'll just do it in the bed. So I got up, and then as soon as I got up, I kind of felt like this heaviness, and I'm like, oh no, like I'm just gonna do it right here. So I plunked my leg up on the side of the pool, and like one of the midwives was holding like my popcorn bowl underneath me, and the other midwife like lightly went tug on the string basically, and I went and like pressed, and it pretty much felt like a softer version of Goldie coming out. It was kind of like if you passed a giant chicken breast out of your vagina. It felt like a wacky waving arm inflatable tube man, like right through your hole, but like boneless, obviously. And so it felt so good to be empty afterwards. Like I cannot explain it. It was just this level of like, oh my God, here's my body again. It's mine, it's me, there's nobody in here. Like it just felt so freeing to just get it out and then just feel like, holy shit, that's that, like it's out. And so then once it was out, it was caught in my popcorn bowl, which has been thoroughly disinfected since. They took it, they took pictures of it, they inspected it, made sure that like all of it was out, and then it went into a Ziploc, went into our fridge, and then I think it was the next day, we drove it in a little cooler down to, there's a local, another doula that does that service, and we had already like prepaid for that. And so basically dropped the cooler off with her, and then she does all of the encapsulation and like whatever else she does with it. So then she dropped that back off with my midwife, and then my midwife dropped it off at our house. So it was great, very smooth process, and yeah, weird. Somebody wants to know what's the biggest struggle you found navigating the pandemic with a baby or being pregnant. Well, I definitely had to let go of any concept of what I thought my pregnancy and postpartum experience like should be based off of what I thought it would be. It is very different, and it is very isolating, and obviously like when you have a newborn, you're kind of like not really wanting people around at the best of times, let alone during a pandemic. So we were very slow to integrate back into the regular world. Anybody that came over was vaccinated. They weren't around a lot of people. If they were, then they had to test. Yeah, I feel like she's now at the age where like when we do go out in public, she's kind of like really weary of masks, and like she gets kind of weirded out because like she hasn't been around a lot of people, and then when she does see people, it's like, you know, and so she doesn't like that, and obviously that's not ideal, but it won't be forever, and I don't know, you gotta do what you gotta do. This whole experience with the pandemic hasn't really been like, I'm not mad that we have to wear masks, and I'm not mad that vaccinations are a thing. I'm sorry if you have a different opinion, but I just see it as public health. I really feel as though it's very simple to be mindful that there are a lot of immunocompromised people, and you know, myself even being one of them. I have an autoimmune disease. It's not the experience that I thought that I would have postpartum. Like we don't do like mommy and me and like go out and share your baby with everyone. I don't know, who knows? Another life, another world, another simulation, right? People were really curious about how my relationship has changed post having a baby, what Glenn's like as a dad, have I had any like resentment towards him for this, that, or the other, and honestly, like he is exactly what I thought he would be as a father, and that's why I married him. You know, he is such a decent and genuine and caring human being. He's the kind of guy that would immediately anticipate your need because he knows that, hey, well, you must be feeling cold, here's my jacket, even before you ask. And he just is a very caring person, and so that's just come out tenfold since being a dad. He's seen me at every single stage of my adult life and vice versa, and we've grown together, and this is just another chapter of being able to grow together and figuring out our needs. And the biggest thing and the biggest advice that I would give to anyone that's about to become a parent is just make sure that your communication is very solid in every way, in the sense that you can't take anything personally, and you have to be really aware of how you say things to your partner, because when you are adding in things like sleep deprivation or extra stress, it is very easy to revert to not the best version of yourself. And so you have to be very mindful of, we are both on the same team. We are doing as much as we can do to make this the best experience that we can have, and we are doing this for a common goal, you know, and you always have to remind yourself of that. I just feel as though like we've both really been able to bounce off each other and really pick each other up whenever the other person is having maybe a weaker moment. It is so awesome to have somebody to lean on. I mean, you'll have to ask him what his experience is like being a father. Maybe we can do a video together on that if he's keen to do it. Okay, lip gloss break. Okay, somebody was asking about elimination communication. If you haven't heard of that, it's basically like you look for your child's cue that they need to go to the bathroom. And obviously when they're a newborn and when you're a new parent, you're probably not going to know about this. And it takes a while to start recognizing like, oh, that's the face that my baby makes right before they take a poop. You start to really recognize what these cues are, and what you see is you start to offer a potty to them. And so basically at like right from birth, we started signing to Goldie and doing like just basic signs like pee and poo and change your diaper and bath and milk. And obviously being a newborn, it's not something that she's gonna like just start ripping out her signs, but it's something that with repetition, hopefully it'll be an easier method of communicating before she's able to verbally communicate with us. And so when we started adding in her potty, we obviously expanded our signs to have potty. So now, like, what it kind of looks like for us is, like, say when we wake up in the morning, we will offer the potty and say, Goldie, do you want to go to the potty? And I'll take her diaper off and put her on this little potty, and I'll say, do you want to go pee? Do you want to go poo? We're obviously not 100% with it, and it's not something that's meant to be like, she's potty trained at 1. Like, it's not like that at all. It's just offering the option of the potty to get her used to, this is what I'm looking for when I feel this feeling. And so even like say, if she's playing on the floor and I hear her start to take a big poop, I'll say, Goldie, you're taking a poopy. Do you want to go on the potty? And so I'll pick her up, put her on the potty, and she might finish her poop on the potty. Maybe she's already finished it in her diaper, but she connects that this action means that we are going to do that. It's kind of cool to see how those things get connected. Yeah, it sounds absolutely wild and totally crazy that like people offer this to like newborns or very, very young children, but like when you start to actually read about it and look into it, like this is a really common thing for a lot of countries to be doing. And I think in our westernized society, we've really normalized just like disposable diapers. Maybe it's not the only way to do things. So yeah, I think that it's something that we definitely will continue with, but again, no added pressure. It's just offering it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I had a couple of questions about baby-led weaning and like starting solids and stuff like that. I plan on using the Solid Starts program. A lot of friends have used it, absolutely loved it, had really great success with it, so I think that that's what we will do. I don't think that we're at that point yet. Like Goldie is 5.5 months, but she isn't showing any interest in other food unless like you're waving it around in her face and then she's just trying to bring it to her mouth, but you could wave anything in her face and she would try and bring it to her mouth right now. I am excited, but a little bit nervous. I definitely want to, again, brush up on my first aid skills. We took a first aid course while I was pregnant, but I feel like that's something that I'm gonna want to do at least yearly. But yeah, we'll start solids within probably the next month or so. And I'm excited, but I'm scared, but I'm excited, and it'll be good. Someone's asked, with a home birth, do you need a doula and a midwife? You do not need a doula, but you do need a midwife. So there was another question in here actually asking about like what were like the costs associated with this. So in Canada, you don't pay for a midwife, which is wonderful. We have free healthcare, and that is a part of your healthcare. You can either have an OBGYN or you could have a midwife. And obviously we went with the midwife route. Your midwife can also help you with a hospital birth. It doesn't need to be a home birth. You could do a hospital birth, you could do a birth at a birth center, or you could do a home birth. And then a doula is basically like a support person. Your support person for yourself and your husband or wife or whomever else is in the birthing experience with you. They are your go-to person to just really help you through your labor and help you through your birth. And I cannot even express how invaluable that was to have a doula and have someone be there for that experience. I am forever grateful to our doula, Krista. She is phenomenal. If you live in the Okanagan area, I highly recommend hiring her. She is worth every penny. Doula pricing is completely person to person. It can range from free to a couple $1,000s, but I personally think that it is money so well spent. I felt like I had somebody who knew exactly what to expect. They knew exactly what I needed, and they knew exactly how to give me tools and remind me to come back to what I needed in order to have a really positive, unmedicated, natural birth. And I am just so thankful to have such a wise woman in the room with me. It just completely made the experience. So you do not have to have a doula, but I really recommend you look into a doula if that is available to you. Somebody wanted to know, are you still vegetarian, and does Glenn eat the same as you, and will Goldie? I was plant-based for like 8 or 9 years. My decision to not eat meat, I still ate fish here and there, but my decision to not eat meat was more based off of I felt better when I didn't eat that. Like, I've never really been into red meat. I used to eat chicken really often, but then once I became vegetarian, I was like, wow, this actually feels, or pescatarian, pardon me, it just feels better for my body, and it did for a very long time. And then when I got pregnant, I struggled so hard with nausea. Like, I was borderline HG. I was full-blown puking multiple times a day. I was losing weight, and I just felt like shit. And when you're not getting any nutrients in, and especially you're not getting any protein in, I just felt off all the time. And so after acupuncture one day, I said to Glenn, I think I would like to eat a chicken burger. So we went to Wendy's and we got a chicken burger, and it was weird as hell eating it, like weird as hell. But I didn't hate it, and I kept it down. And so I ended up eating chicken throughout my pregnancy, and I now occasionally will still have chicken postpartum. I don't know, there just has to be something said for really truly listening to your body and what it needs. On the flip side, I'm also not somebody who's like, I'm gonna go out and just buy steaks and eat them all the time. Like, I just don't have interest in that, but I'm also not going to deprive myself if I feel like my body is requesting that, and that's what I felt like in that moment, and that's what I did. It's great to have in moderation, and I think that as I've grown up and as I've really just honed in and honored who I am and what I need, that just feels right for me in this moment, and so that's what I'm going to do. And so that will likely be what we do with Goldie. Obviously, we are very conscious of eating predominantly plants. Like, that won't change. It is something that I feel very strongly about, eating a very whole foods diet. Have your views on anything changed since becoming a mom? First of all, it's so weird when like people refer to me as a mom, and like I have to like be like, I'm a mom. Me? Weird. Very weird. My views on things have changed, absolutely. I have so much deep respect for other people with families. I just didn't realize how fucking hard it is for people, and like, holy shit, like, single parents, you deserve tax breaks, you deserve holidays, like, oh my god. There's just this level of, you just don't get it until you're in it, and then once you're in it, you're like, how is everyone doing society every day? Wow. I just feel as though I was very naive about the level of selflessness, the level of effort, the level of absolutely everything. Like, you fully do a full day's worth of work before you even start work. And I didn't get that. No matter what your experience is, it is difficult to do this, and it can be draining at times to do this. And I just never really understood that until being in this position myself. I think also I never really understood how important it is to set boundaries and to just truly stick by them. It is so important to do what is right for your family. There just cannot be this level of shaming or this level of like, well, this works for me, it should work for you. Like, fuck off. We're all doing our best trying to get through this. Yeah, so that's how I think my views have changed. I've always been a very like live and let live person, but now like there's just that extra added level of like, you gotta do what you gotta do, and I'm here to support that because, dear God, some days are hard, you know? And I never really understood that as deeply as I understand that now. So that is what has changed. Anyways, my God, this is a very long video. My throat is getting absolutely parched. I need some water. My baby needs food because my boobs are now getting full again. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you're still here, I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to share more of my parenthood journey. I have a really fun 24 hours with a newborn video that's going to be coming up. I have a nursery tour coming up. There's a lot of fun content. It's just going to be rolling out slower because, you know, I have a baby, and my God, they just take a lot of your time, you know? So be patient, it's all coming. Thank you so much for all of your love and support. Please don't forget to leave me a new question for the next TMI Tuesday. Leave it down below in the comments. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.